Hello, MR2. This is Buchan Island. Are you receiving me? Over. Still no reply. We must get them quickly. If a meteorite holds that rocket, they'll never get back.
What's the tape recorder for?
I want a recording of this that can be transmitted back to Earth, just in case.
I see.
What are we going to see?
You're going to see a moving picture. You're going to hear a story. The story of the people who traveled in this very spaceship 400 million years ago. Ready, Henderson?
Yes.
Right, John, if you would care to begin.
Right. Now, first I should explain that it was only after establishing that the writings of these people were based on a scale of 13 numbers and under 7 basic headings was it possible to do this translation. Now, this diary deals with a close, the last period, of what was obviously an exploratory expedition to the moon, somewhat similar to our own.
Where do they come from, these people, to get to the moon?
No, we don't know that yet. Oh, one other thing. Now, they always refer to their home as our planet. Now, in modern English, it goes roughly like this. Reports from our planet are bad. They seem to have forgotten our expedition. They are so concerned with matters at home. Then it goes on to the next entry. We held an assembly today and decided we needed more oxygen and supplies to maintain this base. We shall return to our planet for these. The news from there gets worse all the time.
What does that mean?
Now, the third entry. Today we equipped our 2 spaceships for flight. I shall pilot the second one. It will be good to see my home again, but then we must return here. There is so much yet to explore. The situation on our planet is now very critical. It is absurd for them to go on like this. All could live together. There is room for everyone. Our spaceships are now ready for flight, and our recording machine is prepared for the leader's takeoff. All right, Wedgwood.
Now, I want you to watch that panel up there. Now, the film seems to coincide with the diary from this point. The film only shows the important items, important, that is, from their point of view.
We traveled together. The journey was uneventful.
Doctor, do we know how long this journey took?
No, that isn't mentioned.
Now, this is the arrival.
We are now approaching our planet. There is much cloud. We have just had very bad news. Both sides are fully prepared now. This is sheer madness. Do they not realize what will happen? Our leader is now going in to land, and we shall follow soon. And the diary goes on. We were horrified to see the rockets on the surface. They were ready for firing. Our leader has just signaled us not to land. We fear the worst. And we were right. As we hovered above the landing place, we saw the beginning of what must surely be the end. Soon the other side will send their rockets onto our people, and then there will be nothing. Building the towns below the surface will be no protection. The invisible death will creep down the tunnels and find our people wherever they are.
What are they doing? It was a war on their planet. Oh, it's terrible. What do they mean? The invisible death.
They must have meant radioactivity. Those were hydrogen bombs.
This entry continues. We are now flying up out of the atmosphere. To stay would be certain death. We are glad to know our leader has successfully taken off again. We circled our planet 3 times. Everywhere the madness was being unleashed. And finally, our leader ordered us to return to the moon. What will happen now? None of us knows.
Oh, is that all there is?
That's all the film there is.
And that's all I've translated so far.
But just a minute. That planet. I want to see that last shot again. Is that possible?
Yes, certainly. Why?
Well, let me see it first, and perhaps I can tell you.
Right there you are.
There, you see that landmass? Don't you recognize it? I believe that their planet was our planet, the Earth. There, you see that? On the left, that could be the Americas. On the bottom right could be Africa, and above it, Europe.
The world was never like that.
Oh, yes, Valerie, the world could have looked like that before the great continental drift. You see, for millions of years, the continents have been slowly moving apart, floating on the molten core of the Earth.
Henderson, I believe you're right.
Then were these people our ancestors?
No. No, they could never have been our ancestors. But what Henderson is suggesting is that there have been two evolutions on Earth. The land life of the first was destroyed by that war they spoke of. And then later, when the radioactive fallout had died, and the trilobites crawled up out of the sea again to start life all over again.
That's a very fanciful theory, Wedgwood.
Many of the things we discover in outer space are bound to seem fanciful at first.
But after that war, what happened to the ones that escaped? Like the man who wrote this diary.
Well, now that's what we're trying to find out, Jimmy. That's what we hope this diary will be able to tell us.
I see. Thank you, Greenwich. Will you keep us informed of any further changes? Right. Jean, there's been another report through from Greenwich Observatory. The meteoric bombardment is still increasing. Shall I try getting onto Wedgwood again?
No. I'll do that. We'll go and get some food.
Perhaps they're staying in the cave for safety.
The rockets aren't safe. They're exposed on the moon's surface.
Well, they're very small in relation to the moon. There's not much chance of them being hit.
How do you know how intense the bombardment is on the moon? Don't forget it sits out there drawing meteorites to itself like a magnet. You know a meteorite's only got to be the size of a speck of dust to go right through a spaceship.
Take it easy, Jean. There's nothing we can do except to keep calling them.
I'm sorry. I'm a bit on edge. I've hardly slept since the launching. Not for more than a few hours. When I do sleep, I get a nightmare none of them will ever get back.
Hello, Buchan Island. Ian Murray here in MR1. Has Professor Wedgwood made contact with you yet? Over.
Hello, Ian. We can get no answer from MR2. Over.
Listen, Jean. There's a lot of meteorite activity showing on my radar screen. 3 have come down close to the rocket in the last 5 minutes. I don't know what's going to happen to us all if the next lot score a bullseye. Have you had any report of this activity on Earth? Is it going to increase? Over.
Greenwich are watching it for us, Ian, but I'll get a message through to Professor Wedgwood as soon as I can. Over.
All right. Thanks, Jean. You do that. And tell him not to forget that I'm stuck out here on my own. Over and out.
What can Wedgwood do, Jean, even if he knows it's getting worse?
Well, the moon's the attraction point. He might want to cut short the exploration. They'd be far safer in outer space.
Yes, but he and the others are safe enough in that cave.
I know they are. Provided there's a rocket left for them to come back in. Anyway, let's just keep calling them. Hello, MR2. Hello, MR2.
How's it going, Mary?
Well, this is our route back to MR1.
Yeah, we're going to have to be taking you pretty soon. In fact, as soon as John's finished breaking down that diary. You know, the long trek over here from MR1, putting oxygen in this cave, it's used up twice as much oxygen as I'd planned.
Seems a pity to have to return after so few days.
Don't worry, we'll be back. You know, the moon is our gateway to the planets. Now that we've come this far successfully, there's no reason why we shouldn't probe anywhere into our universe.
I admire your optimism, Professor. We're still 250,000 miles from Earth. Or perhaps you'd overlook that.
I thought it hadn't escaped me, but I think we'll manage it all right.
Those first people who wrote that diary, they wanted to go back. I wonder what happened to them.
Look, we found some toy bricks with some symbols on them.
Has Dr. Connor worked out any more of the diary yet?
Yeah, here we are. I just finished typing out the next section for him.
Oh, can we hear it?
Perhaps you would read it to us, Henderson.
All right. There is still no message from our planet. That means Earth. Although we signal them every day. We held an assembly today. The decision was to start the great journey.
What great journey? Shh, Jimmy.
The great journey to find another planet, perhaps in another galaxy, where life would be possible. Then there's another entry, probably the following day, I should think. All's ready for the great journey. Some of us think it is impossible, but we shall try. Then there's another line. An extraordinary event. A spaceship from our planet arrived just before our departure. It contained one adult, the pilot, and children.
Children? Well, that explains the toys. The children must have brought them.
Now you shush. Go on, Mr. Henderson.
Well, apparently they escaped before the invisible death reached their part of the planet. Ironically, they are the children of our enemies. We have sent the children of our enemies on the journey we had proposed to take, equipping them with most of our oxygen and supplies. The catastrophe was not their fault. Yet can we say this of ourselves?
So they had charity, these first people.
And hope.
Then there's the next entry. Our leader set out today to reconnoiter our planet. We have just learned that he has landed. Then another entry. Our leader tells us from the planet that the radioactive dust makes life impossible for everything except creatures deep in the sea. He is returning tomorrow.
This is another bit that I've translated, and this is what it says. Our leader's spaceship returned and strangely went into orbit.
That could be the one we nearly collided with.
You watch it in orbit every day, but there is no answer. The radioactivity must have killed them, either that or they have been struck by meteorites. There is much meteorite bombardment here all the time.
You know, we saw meteorites landing when we came back from MR2.
I wish I'd seen them.
You can't see them, silly. You only see the dust they kick up. They're too small to see.
Yeah, small they may be, but nevertheless dangerous. Especially to a spaceship exposed on the surface. John, you say that diary refers to meteorite bombardment all the time?
Well, that's as near as I can translate it.
I wonder if we've underestimated their danger. We know there are streams of meteorites, but we don't know how often the moon may pass through them. How many did you see?
I saw two.
Well, altogether about 5 or 6.
In an area only 10 miles across. Henderson, I think better if you and Jeff went back to MR2. Call Gene and see if Ian's getting any meteorite readings.
Yes, we had better. All right, come on, Jeff. Spacesuits, helmets.
Can't I hear the end of the diary?
No, you will soon enough. Oh, and tell Ian we hope to be with him fairly soon.
Right.
We'll open the doors for you. Let me do it.
Now, I have a feeling time is running out on us. Mary, let's start collecting things together.
What do you intend taking back?
Just what we can carry on the trek back to MR1. John, how long will it take you to finish translating that diary?
Well, I can stop it now and continue it when we get back to Earth.
No. No, better get it finished now.
Yes. I see.
Dr. O'Connell?
Yes?
Can you read the rest of the diary to us?
Well, I don't know. It might be a little difficult.
But you said it was so easy.
Well, let us try, shall we? Our leader remains in orbit. Perhaps his ship will stay there forever. All the others have left the cave to take a last look at our planet. I remain here to complete this diary. Perhaps someday someone will read it. Perhaps life can start again in our planet, as they had courage.
Go on, Dr. O'Connell.
Now, this last entry seems rather more difficult to read, as if the writer were failing in his strength. I think it says, I've been thinking in these last moments how to preserve my body so that others may know what we look like. Think I have the answer. I'm going now to the caves. I wonder in these last moments whether the children will ever find another habitable planet, and if they do, whether they will have learned from the folly of their elders. Well, that's all.
What did he mean? I'm going now to the caves. He must be the man in the stalagmite. He went down there so that if anyone came afterwards, he'd know what he looked like. But if everybody on Earth was dead, how did he think that anybody would come here?
Because he had hope. And he was right, even though it had taken us 400 million years to do it.
Right, Jeff. We on frequency?
Yes, Mr. Henderson.
Good. Hello, Earth. Hello, Backen Island. MR2 calling. Over.
Hello, MR2. Backen Island here. We've been calling you for the past hour. Will you please tell Professor Wedgwood we have reports of a meteorite bombardment on the moon? Over.
Well, yes, he was afraid of that. All right, Gene, I'll tell him. Oh, and Gene, can you put me on relay to MR1? Over.
Right, putting you on now. Over.
Hello, Ian. Henderson here. What are the meteorite readings on your radar screen? Over.
I don't need to look at my radar screen. I can see them through the periscope throwing up dust as they hit the surface. Listen, when are we getting out of here? Over.
We'll be with you shortly, Ian. Our research in the cave is almost complete. Over.
Listen, whatever time you leave there, it will still take you 6 hours to reach me in the sea of vapors. And an awful lot can happen in 6 hours. Over.
Now listen, Ian, I'm going straight back to Wedgwood to report the bombardment. Over.
All right. I'll keep my fingers crossed. Oh, by the way.
Oh, what's happened?
I don't know, he's cut out.
Hello, Ian. Can you hear me? Over. Hello, Ian. Ian, what's happened? Ian, can you hear me? Over.
Well, Hammer's been watching the milk, and he wants some. Come on, Meanie, it's his last meal before he goes back to Earth.
Oh, all right. I wonder if those other children had guinea pigs and things.
They probably had those things with 6 legs and a snout.
How could you make a pet of one of them?
There's a boy at school got a snake, and he's a terrific pet. Come on, Hamlet, drink up. We've got a long walk ahead of you.
Professor Meadows, do you know when we're leaving?
We'll be going back to the rocket as soon as your father's finished in the caves. Here he is now.
We'd look at our petrified friend down there. He's going to be quite a problem.
It would be a pity to leave him behind.
Oh, I don't intend to. We can reduce his weight by chipping away some of the stalagmite until there's only about 1/8 of an inch covering. Then we'll rig up a stretcher. Still be a problem to carry him 150 miles to MR1 then. John, have you got that all mapped out?
Yes, I have a complete plan of the motors as far as we understand them. They're a fantastic piece of machinery, and they've still got some of the original atomic fuel in them.
It's a pity we can't take that spaceship back with us.
Well, we've still got a plan of it, and that's the main thing.
Hey, Van Ray, how about some of that tea, eh?
Here you are, Daddy. But there isn't any sugar left. You didn't put enough in the supply rocket.
Well, I wasn't expecting you 3 now, was I?
Oh, here are the others.
Dad, something's happened to Ian.
Yes, his radio just went dead. He was telling us about the meteorites dropping, and then he went silent. I kept calling, and there was no reply.
Our return rocket's been hit.
Well, not necessarily. His transmitter might have broken down. How intense was the bombardment?
Well, at the time, it was pretty fierce. It seems so past now.
Without radio from MR1, how do we know what's happened?
We'll know, because I'm going to find out. Mary, you come with me.
Dad, can we come too?
No, if anything's happened to the rocket, no point in us all getting stranded out there.
But if the rocket's been put out of action, then we're all stranded anyway, aren't we?
Nobody said it had been put out of action. It may have been damaged, but it may be only slight, in which case I'll repair it and call you back through Buckingham. But I expect it's only a radio fault.
But Dad, Ian's a wizard at the radio, and we went on listening for 5 minutes.
Henderson, I want you and Jeffrey back in MR2 for continual listening watch and keep track on Mary and myself until we're out of radio range.
Right.
No, wait a moment, just... On second thoughts, I think O'Connell better go with Jeffrey.
Me?
Yes, I want that diary, description of the motors, and everything we found in this cave radioed back to Earth.
But can't we tell them all that when we get there?
Yes, of course we can, Jimmy. This is just a precaution.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to stay here with Val and Jimmy. Keep their minds off what's happened.
You don't really believe that transmitter's broken down, do you?
He had an emergency one with him. He'd have used that if he'd been all right. Anyway, I think Jeffrey realized that. That's why I'm sending him for the colonel.
What do you expect to find there?
Well, he may have lost some oxygen. But if the fuel tank's been hit, well, you know what liquid hydrogen will do in a temperature like this. We'll be lucky if we find a trace.
Hello, Buchan Island, MR1 calling Earth. Hello, Buchan Island, over.
Gene, I think he's coming through. Oh, Ian, listen, he's calling.
MR1 calling Buchan Island, over. MR1 calling Buchan Island, over.
Hello, Ian. We're receiving you, but faintly. Are you all right? Over.
Yes, Gene, I'm all right. I'm using the emergency transmitter. Put me on relay to Lunar Base immediately. This is urgent, over.
Right, Ian, putting you on now. Over. Hello, MR2. This is Buchan Island. We've got Ian. Over.
Hello, Ian. Jeff here. What's happened? Over.
The rocket. It's been hit by a meteorite. All the oxygen has escaped. Over.
What about the fuel? Ian, O'Connell here. What about the fuel? Check the gauges. Over.
Pressure's dropping. It's almost down to 0. The meteorite must have gone right through the fuel tank as well. It's almost down to 0 again. Listen, I'm getting out of here. The fuel's evaporating. It may go off at any second.
There's no answer. He must have gone.
Perhaps it's happened already. If that fuel has reached combustion point, the rocket will already have blown down.
Vapors through the 200-inch telescope. They've just seen a brilliant flash.
MR1. I have to tell MR2.
Brilliant. Thank you, Beacon Island. Over and out.
Perhaps Mount Palomar could be mistaken.
No. Apparently they photographed the explosion.
Wondered if Ian got out in time.
It'd be luckier for him if he didn't. At least it was quick.
Dr. O'Connell, this rocket, couldn't this rocket take off?
Yes, it could just about take off, but it couldn't carry anyone. It never was intended to get back.
No. Wonder if Dad saw the explosion.
He wouldn't have got there in time, but he'll know soon enough.
Ian.
Is he hurt?
I think it's just lack of oxygen. What happened here?
The rocket, MR1.
I know, we saw from up there. I grabbed what oxygen I could and got out. Fuel was vaporizing. There was nothing I could do. It was a meteorite.
It's all right, Ian. We're going to get you back to the base now. See if you can get up.
I'm all right. Now that I've got oxygen.
It's no good looking in that direction, Professor. There's nothing left of it. We've got to get back to the others.
Can't you go, Jimmy?
No, I knock. Daddy's been gone ages now. Surely we'll hear from them soon.
Yes, well, it's no good worrying, is it, pal? Listen, that's the airlock.
What's happening, Jeff? Have you heard from Dad yet?
Yes, we've just heard from him. He's going straight to MR2.
What do you mean he didn't go to Ian's rocket?
No, he came back. He's got Ian with him. He wants us all in MR2 immediately. There's no time to waste.
All right, come on.
Position. However, we stripped this rocket down to its barest necessities. We've had to discard much of the drinking water, the emergency transmitter, and much of the food supplies as well. Well, with these drastic reductions in weight, this rocket will just be able to take off from the moon, leaving sufficient fuel to land on the Earth. Unfortunately, however, it can only carry a payload of 250 pounds. That is to say, one adult and one child.